Sheldon,
Steve, how you going, buddy?
I'm okay.
Yes. Hey, how's the day been? You been busy?
Always busy.
Good stuff, mate.
I'm in Bellingen, New South Wales.
Is that the country area?
Yeah, I'm doing I'm doing a show here on Friday night,
Oh,
and
nice.
I'm just having a few days off, and of course, someone filled all my days in with interviews. So,
John,
but
yeah.
I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining.
Well, I'm not complaining either, mate. First of all, man, thank you so much for taking this call. Appreciate it, man. It's
Of
such a great
course, of
honor,
course.
man. Um, so Steve, you are a singer-songwriter, a poet, an author, and a painter. And you've registered over 1,000 songs. How do you do it, mate?
Well, I'm pretty old, so I've had a lot of time to do all that stuff. I'm not very good at anything except sort of these matters. I'd never get a job as a gardener or a carpenter, or I wasn't very good when I was a clerk. So this is all I've sort of focused all my mind onto these kind of matters. So my brain, if you looked at my brain, sort of 98% is writing, music, painting, all the things you mentioned, and 2% for doing sensible things. So I've become a real specialist. That's how I do it, by not being very good at anything else.
And the royalties must be huge, isn't it? The musical royalties, from your music.
The royalties,
Yeah,
the royalties I get paid.
from the opera, mate, Yeah.
You think it's huge? Maybe it's not bad, but not probably as good as you think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, not as huge as you may think.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no. But still, yeah, something.
Yeah. So tell us about your songwriting process. I mean, do you let the ideas come to you where you're being inspired by your surroundings, for example, where you are at the moment, or and you manifest your storyline, or do you sit on the table and hope that something comes up? I mean, let's use under the Milky Way as an example. Like, I mean, how do you manifest such lyrics?
Well, that one was pretty quick. They're all quick. It all comes quickly. Sometimes I write. Usually, I have the music first, whether I write it on my own, or I write it with the band, or I write it with somebody else, or somebody comes to me, and our collaboration is they have the music. And with that, I sort of wrote the music on the piano pretty quickly. And that song, my then girlfriend and I wrote the lyrics together. But the whole thing was over in about 10 minutes. And I would say most of the things I write very quickly. I don't, if I'm sitting there going, oh, then I know I'm doing something wrong. It should all be really easy. It's like playing golf or something, or you should be really relaxed, and it should be really easy. But I've been writing songs for a long time. I've tried all different ways. I've tried writing the words first and then putting them in music. I've tried writing the music first and then putting the words on. Sometimes they all come together. Sometimes I'm just jamming with the band, and something the church has been doing lately is writing really long pieces of music, like jamming for like 40 minutes. So you've got a 40-minute piece of music, and then you bring some outside person in, like the engineer or the producer, and you say, cut that all up into a song. And then they take that 40 minutes and they condense it all, the best bits, into a song, into a little piece. But whatever, I'm open to every single way. Um, I just made an album with a classical guitarist, and he had all the music finished, and I just went into the studio, and I'd say the engineer put up the next song, and he put up the next song, and I'd listen to it, and the lyrics would they just appear out of nowhere in my head. And the melody's the hardest thing to find, not the music.
Yeah.
So I usually try to find the melody, and you can do this thing, vocalizing, where you hear a piece of music, you're going, oh, and then eventually it sort of turns into, the shapes of the words start to turn into real words. But just there are many, many, many different ways to write songs. On piano, on guitar, on a bass guitar, just walking down the street, sometimes a whole song could come into your head. So whatever it is, I'm ready for it and waiting for it.
Yeah. So apparently, I was reading on the internet that no one knows the meaning behind under the Milky Way. Is that true? Is there a meaning to it, or there is no meaning to the song?
It's open to interpretation, and that's why it's such a successful song, I think, because it isn't about anything. It's like putting you in a mood. It's like putting you in a mood, and then your imagination will do the work. And that's why so many people like it and love it, because it sort of doesn't tell you, it's not a song that tells you to think something. It's a song that goes, here's a mood that you may enjoy, and then you get in that mood, and then your imagination will do the work for you. And you might remember a lovely starry night. You might remember a lady you once loved. You might remember a lot of people, it sort of reminds them of people who've passed away, or it takes them back to a certain time when they were young, or you know what I mean? Or some people, it just gives them a mood they like, a mood they enjoy being in, like smelling a perfume. It doesn't mean anything as such, but the perfume will put you in a mood. And then I find the very best books and the very best songs and the very best films, they don't tell you exactly what to feel. They just set it all up for you. And it's like a door, and then you open that door and you walk through, and then your mind creates all the rest. I think that's why Under the Milky Way is such a successful song. It's because it's ambiguous.
Exactly. The church have recorded 27 albums over the last
Yeah,
45 years or so.
yeah,
That's like
yeah,
one album every 1.5 years.
yeah.
Do you feel like it's a full-time job being a musician? Because people think being a rock
Oh,
star
totally.
musician is all about this hedonistic lifestyle, but it's a full-time job, isn't it?
It, yeah. It seems to be. As I told you, I was supposed to be here just having a day off, and someone went, "Hey, we got some interviews for you." I'm always working. I've always been working on music. I'm always working on lyrics. If I'm whatever I do, if I'm reading a book, if I'm having a conversation with someone, if I'm sitting on a bus or a train or an aeroplane, always looking. I'm always looking for things I can use. So in that way, it is a full-time job. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of things about music surprised me. I thought if I was a musician, I'd get to sleep in every morning. And I find that isn't true, because you often got to be at the airport at 6 a.m. flying somewhere. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff people don't see, like okay, we're about to do an American tour, and people come in and go, "Oh, look at this." You know, the church come on at 8 o'clock at night, and they play for 2 hours, and then it's all over. But they don't see all the stuff that came before that. You know, being on the bus and driving there, and then you got to get there, and all the stuff's got to be checked out, and then you've got to do the sound check. And now a new thing, Sheldon, that people have these days, meet and greets. So we're not doing it in Australia on this tour, but when we tour America, we do a meet and greet. So every day there's an hour and a half put aside while people pay to meet and greet us. And so there's a new thing that when I started, there was none of that. You couldn't meet and greet people, but nowadays they've got that. So it is pretty full time. You can get really tired of all the travel and all the airports and the taxis and meeting and greeting. But it's what you do, It's just
Yeah.
what you got to do.
So 40 years ago, the band started off as a psychedelia, and then you moved towards the surreal soundscapes, blending towards elements of rock and dream pop and so on. Is that a deliberate move, or is it because the band have become more matured, or the tastes have just changed over 40 years or so?
I I've just let it go where it wants to go. That's always, I think that's the thing with art. I think that's the thing with poetry. I think that's the thing with writing a book. When you start, when I started off, I had some idea of what I wanted the band to be, and then when it started becoming something else, we let it be that. When and you see that happening. You see that happening with people. They start drifting into other areas, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully. You know, you start drifting towards prog rock, or you might drift towards country music, or you might drift towards hard rock, or you might drift towards ambient, and I think that is the thing, is to let it go where it wants to go. I think that's the secret with art. If you start painting a horse, but if the horse turns into a dragon, let it be a dragon. Don't there's I don't know, the sort of universe wants to work through musicians and artists, and I think you should listen to what the universe is. Be open to changing and transforming what you do.
It's very spiritual, actually. So the band actually was inducted into the Hall of Fame, I think
Yeah,
2011, wasn't it? It must be a quite
2010. Yeah,
2010, yeah.
yeah.
It must be quite surreal, isn't it? I mean, it's not unexpected, obviously, but yeah, it must be really awesome to be inducted into Hall of Fame.
Well, it's better than being inducted into a jail. That's for sure. It didn't. Yeah, it doesn't. All that stuff. It doesn't really. I don't know. It wasn't. It isn't the American Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That would have been. That really would have been something. But yeah, I'm. I'm. I'm glad. I'm glad that happened. For sure, that was a good thing. That was a good moment. We had some fun, and it didn't change much. And there is no actual Hall of Fame in Australia either. There's no actual building. You know what I mean? There's not
Yeah.
not like in America. There is an actual Hall of Fame. In Australia, it's just a mental Hall of Fame. So, but
Yeah.
yes, definitely. I enjoy all those things. The sort of honors that you can have bestowed upon you when you win an award, or your album is voted the album of the year, or whatever it is. But I don't get too carried away by it, but I certainly appreciate it.
You mentioned about the American Hall of Fame. You
Yeah,
are going to America on tour, I think, in a few months' time.
yeah. And we're
How
playing there.
I'm playing there, so New York.
We're playing in the Hall of Fame in
Oh,
Cleveland. Yeah, we
wow,
are. Which is
amazing.
so it's a gig. So it is actually a gig where you can play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How close were you back in the 80s into breaking to? I know you guys had several top 40 hits in America, but how close were you into becoming this huge American band back in the 80s?
I think we were close. We used to have a manager who used to go, "You guys can be bigger than you too," but it never happened, for various reasons. It's like, have you heard that saying, "Many are called, but few are chosen"?
Yeah.
There's 1 million bands start every year, and then but only 1,000 of them will ever get to this level, and then only 500 will get to that level, and eventually only one band will become U2, and there'll be many, many bands that never quite got there. And that happened at the church. It looked like it was all going to really happen. And then for many, many reasons, it didn't happen. And that was sad because I can see now looking back on it, I can see so clearly. The band started arguing. We had some success and we all started arguing with each other. Our manager wasn't a very good manager. Our record company didn't understand us. We worked too hard. In 1988, we did a tour. I think we worked almost every night of the year. You can look back on it and see on a website, you can look back and see all the gigs we played. And not only that, but we were booked. We were flying around the world, and you'd fly to Adelaide for a gig you already had booked, and then you'd fly to Copenhagen, then you'd fly to America and go around America a bit, and then you go to London, and then, Brazil. And it's just all this flying and traveling and arguing, and it all fell through. And our next album was kind of a weak album. To tell you the truth, the album that was going to be the big one, it didn't materialize. So we fell by the wayside. And then a few years later, grunge came along, and that was the end of it. Grunge kind of replaced whatever the hell it was we were doing. And then you just got to hang in there. And then you hang in there for a long time, and eventually you come back into fashion again.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just a very interesting story. But having said that, the church will be touring across Australia in November, and I'm just
Yeah,
reading from the press release. The singles tour will be the first
yeah,
time ever the church have pledged
yeah.
a show in its unique format, celebrating their rare guitar brilliance and songwriting inventions. Tell us more about this uniqueness about this upcoming tour in Australia.
Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. A promoter came to me, who's also a friend of mine, and he said, I want to do a tour. It's going to be really successful. I only want you to play your singles." And he said, if you do this tour for me, I guarantee it'll be a success. And I went, okay. And now it's selling out everywhere. And I guess that's what people wanted. Um, Not all of our singles are hits. So some of our singles are what you might call deep cuts.
Yep.
And it's not like we're coming out and going bang, 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 bang and playing hit after hit after hit. The church only really had 4 or 5 hits in Australia. So it's not a bad idea. And I'm really happy with how it's going. And maybe next year it'll be something else. But so far it's proving to be a really popular idea. People want to hear those singles, so that's what we're giving them.
So it's the greatest hits tour, basically.
Yep. Yes, yes. Just, I mean, that's what David Bowie did. I mean, if you look at what David Bowie did, most of his tours, he was playing his singles. He was playing. He would throw in a couple of other ones, but mainly it was all his hit singles. That seems to be what almost everybody does.
Yeah. Finally, Steve, thank you so much for your time, mate. I'll
Okay,
give you
mate.
3 minutes break. Before you go, can I get a plug from you, mate? Say something about Sheldon Ang Media. So I'm Steve. Yeah, with Sheldon Ang Media. Is that okay?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Steve Kilby, and you're watching and listening to Sheldon Ang Media.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's a great honor.
Okay.
And I'll see you in November.
No worries, mate.
See you,
Bye.
bye. See you, bro. Bye.